Hi there, my name's Jim, this is my shed and you're welcome to it. And welcome back. This video containing quite a lot of engine machining stuff at last. Bit of ASMR, I've told, is all the rage these days, so kept all that in there. Turning's a bit of an epic. Might be about half an hour long by the time it's finished, so I won't rabbit on too long. I will just say buckle up and enjoy the ride. Cheers. So here's the crankshaft. In my usual fashion, obviously I forgot to take a direct shot of it before it went away, but if you can remember when I went through all the engine bits I had, so I've compared the new to the old crank. It was just a very rusty old crank. So gave it a nice blast, then turned some weight off it. So I took some weight off here in the lathe, which I'll show you straight after we've done this little chatty bit, because in a crankshaft all the strength is basically across here. So this distance here and across here. So if a crank breaks, it's almost always going to be from either this side or that side across one of the rolled fillets in these corners here. In the past, when I've lightened cranks, I would turn off the outside of this, so basically that's one diameter. So just stick it in the lathe, turn off to one diameter, because weight taken off the outside is the most important. And then generally I would wedge. That's not very good, let's see it that way. I'll this way instead. That's a better view of it. I would wedge, so cut across here and across here to make this more of a wedge shape. So you end up taking more off here, so you increase the counterweight but reduce the weight of the crank overall. But because this is just a crappy cast crank and I'm going to stick a bit of boost through it, I thought instead of just the weight saving, I'd rather keep the strength across here, so I've left it completely alone, just took the weight off the outside, which meant the weight saving wasn't huge. If I had more time to do machining and I could afford to spend hours and hours chipping away at things like I used to do, I would have cut some weight out of this section, so thinned this down, because this bit doesn't do anything. And also, if you've really got time, you can drill a hole straight through the big end, because that also lightens. And then if you're really going to town, you can start taking away off this bit, start taking away here. But that is, because it's so near the centre, you're not really reducing the rotating, you're not reducing the moment of inertia of the crank very much. Yes, you're making it lighter, which is always a good thing. So if you can do that, great. But that's the last bit. If you're sort of limited in terms of time, as I very much am, that would be the last bit. So this crank's been blasted, weight turned off the outside, and then the journals polished. Now these journals measure up perfectly standard, absolutely bang on size. But I don't know if you can see, when I blasted it, removed the surface rust, there is a bit of pitting. Excuse me. It's not bad, but it is there. Not ideal, but I'd already bought the cranks, and because it measures up on size and it's only a bit of surface pitting, I'm going to leave that. So there's the crank. Now I'll show you how I machined it. A little bit fast. That's better. A bit hard before. Okay, so that was the crank lightened. Now onto the flywheel. So you can see, first job again, blast it, get all the rusty crap off it, make it look nice. And then, as I mentioned with the crank, weight off the outside is most important. So my first port of call was sticking this up in the four-jaw. Didn't really want to use a four-jaw, had to, circumstances arose, I had to use a four-jaw, so setting up was a bit of a pain, which you will see in the video. But anyway, put it up in the four-jaw and then turned off the original timing marks off the outside here. Now, this is an earlier type flywheel where Peugeot put the mounting holes for the clutch and the dowels right at the outside of the this face, which meant that I couldn't actually turn as much of these off as I wanted, because you can see how close that's getting. I couldn't have taken any more off of that without risking cracking or breaking through. So I was somewhat limited there. But you know, every little helps, and got a little bit off the outside. Then once that was done, I flipped it round, mounted it in the chuck this way, and then turned what's basically getting most of the weight out of it. So turning out of this face, just did it in two cuts. So I went in here, out to the outside, and then out at an angle, and then down this face at the inside, and then cut along to more or less mate with that, which came out reasonably well. Quite happy with that. I did end up going about 11 to 12 millimeters thick on the clutch face. You can go thinner than that. I know people will say you can't do that to a flywheel, a cast flywheel I should say, that's dangerous, that's going to go bang. I have done literally hundreds of flywheels, cast flywheels, literally, and gone much, much thinner than this. And the only one that ever went bang was one that had a crack in it to start with, and I did not want to machine it. The customer insisted it was the only one he could get, couldn't get hold of another one, blah, blah, blah. Could I machine out the crack? So did what I could, tried to machine out the crack, and in the end it went bang. So destroyed his gearbox, but I will take no responsibility because I didn't want to do it in the first place. It's the customer insisted. But anyway, because it's a turbo motor, and I thought I just want to leave a little bit more meat here, because again, road engine, we're not going for ultimate lightness, just as much weight off we can get off safely, and I want a bit of thermal mass in there, so I left it a little bit thicker than possibly than I could. But I used to say for a road engine, 10 mil on this face was about ideal, but I've left it just a little bit thicker to give me a bit more thermal mass. And then finally, I chucked it up in the mill on the rotary table and slotted out these three chunks here, which is another reasonable weight saving, and again all around the outside, so really reducing the moment of inertia, meaning it will spin up quicker, which is all good. Generally, I would have liked to machine out these little bits as well, so not just these 3 slots, but these 6 extra bits I've had to leave in. But Peugeot, in their infinite wisdom, decided to machine a hole here that goes right through underneath the ring gear. So if I'd machined out a slot like this here, there basically would have been this little bit of cast with nothing holding it together, except maybe the ring gear on the outside. But I wouldn't trust that. I wouldn't, that wouldn't look right to me. So I've had to leave the meat here to keep the integrity, which meant that I couldn't do these additional bits. I could have done these 3. Could have done 3. Left that one, and that one, and done these. But for the weight saving, I just thought I'd leave it. Again, comes back to time. If I had more time, I could have chipped away, done something. But I've got the major weight saving out of it, so I've got sort of the most bang for my buck, as it were. So let's go over to the machine shop. Setting up a four-jaw is a pretty tedious process. I've chosen to set the dial gauge up on the centre bore where it sits on the crank, so that'll be accurate centre, and you just got to go around adjusting each of the jaws until that dial gauge tells you got there. I'm within about 1 thou when it gets to the end, so that's plenty to go up on the balancer. Then you'll see that you have to check for the run out, so you move the dial gauge around to the clutch face, get that square, tap it about to your right, then go back, check that the centre is still centred, and then we finally tighten all the jaws down nice and evenly to make sure you're gripping nice and tight.
I'd like to point out here, no gloves. I can't stand watching people, I call them pretentious idiots, wearing those black rubber bloody gloves. You can't feel what you're doing. You must just get caught in things and everything. I just don't understand what people aversion people have got to use in their hands. You can wash them when you're done, you know.
It's so close to the edge.
tooth out, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you. In case you're wondering what's going on here, I'm finding the centre of the cutter using a bit of plasticine stuck on the end of it with a bit of welding rod sticking out. Just, spin it up, stop the welding rod wobbling around using your finger, and then you've got the centre of the tool. So you don't have to take the tool out every time you need to find centre. And just a nice light finishing cut to tidy everything up. So there's the flywheel all machined up. When I come back to CTM, when I go back to CTM, I should say, to pick up the head and stuff they're machining for me, I will take the clutch cover, the flywheel, and the crank again, and I'll balance all that. So that will be balanced as a rotating assembly. So that will sort that out. And speaking of clutch, I have actually bought my clutch. So I went to Helix Autosport. Very, very helpful. Not cheap, I will admit, but hey ho, you need these things. And so I bought a 6-paddle cerametallic sprung center. I didn't know, but the different paddles don't really make a difference to the torque capacity, but it's actually how harsh the engagement is. So the fewer pucks you have, the more on off the clutch is. So for a road, I needed the 6-puck, which of course is a bit more expensive, but that's what you need. That's what you need. And they also supplied one of their heavy-duty clutch covers, which should handle about 400 foot-pounds of torque, which will be enough to smash my gearbox to pieces. And I won't be pushing it that hard, but you don't want to be limited by the clutch or anything like that. So I went for the heavy duty option. The standard or the non-heavy duty cover would have been marginal on torque, would have been too close the other way. So I thought, sod it, just go for the big one, and as I say, make sure we don't have any clutch issues. But I didn't know what car or year this engine came from, so I had to guess which of the early or late clutch covers I need, and of course I guessed wrong. So when the clutch turned up, I was all excited, went to fit it on the flywheel, didn't fit, had a different bolt pattern. Phoned up Helix, not complaining at all, because I didn't know which one I was ordering, and I guessed and got it wrong. But they were very helpful. They just said straight away, "Oh, just send it back. We'll swap it for the right one." But I was like, "Well, I've got it now, and I'm going to be machining my flywheel anyway, so I'll just re-drill the flywheel." So they sent me the drawing for me to re-drill. But then when I saw the difference, basically the bolt holes are close together and slightly further in, so there was no easy way for me to re-drill this safely and still be able to lighten it the way I wanted. So I just had to bite the bullet, swallow the carriage, send the clutch cover back, and they're going to replace it. But as I say, Helix, fantastic service. They no quibble at all. They just said, "Yeah, send that back. We'll send you the right one." So they were amazing. But I haven't actually got it right now. So well, I'm not going to go to CTM and pick my stuff up until I've got the clutch cover, got the right one, and I can balance everything as an assembly. So yeah, there we are. I'm hoping you agree. They look quite good. Now let's see how much weight we saved. So there you go. I think you'll agree, a significant weight saving. I'm surprised the crank wasn't a bit lighter, or the difference between the original crank and the new ones wasn't a bit more, but it's fair amount. So I'm quite happy with that. And the flywheels come out nicely, even though the problems I alluded to in the video, couldn't get quite as much weight out of it again as I wanted to. But what can you do? Got to work with what you've got. You may wonder why I'm quite so obsessed with lightning stuff like that. Obviously, car light is better, easier on your tyres, better acceleration. Basically, my favourite saying is, if you haven't got it, you haven't got to accelerate it or stop it or make it go around corners. So less is more in my eyes. I'm really not into heavy stuff. Like if you look at something like the Bugattis and all that, just you decide on a spec you want, and then you just make it work and throw more and more and more at it without thinking, hang on, we've gone down a dead end here. Do we need to back off and start again and end up with something more like the T50 or something like that? But each their own, as always. Just whatever floats your boat. But yes, so Lightning engine components. I just thought I'd explain why I'm so obsessive, and why I mentioned in the past I used to just chip away at every little bit I could get off when I had time to spend doing that kind of thing. Just get as much weight out as you can. Yes, you're saving a few kilos, which doesn't sound like an awful lot, but every bit helps. And if you take, I've taken 4 kilos out, and that's just 4 kilos off the engine. Great. But also, you've got to remember that it's come off, as I mentioned, it's come off the outside, so it's reduced the inertia, so it'll spin up quicker than the weight saving suggests, because all the weight's come off the outside, so the effective diameter of the mass has got smaller, so that will help you accelerate. Plus, any weight you get off rotating assembly goes through your gearbox. So if I've taken 4 kilos off this in first gear, got an overall gear ratio something like 14:1, so you multiply that by 14 plus the actual weight saving you've got, so it's like saving about 60 odd kilos, which doesn't sound huge, but when you think that the all-up weight with me in the car is going to be something around 800, that is a significant amount of weight. You know, it's approaching sort of 10%-ish. Not quite 8 or something, 7 or 8, but you know what I mean. Yeah, so a significant weight saving. Even though it might seem like I'm obsessing over small details, every little bit counts. And just to reiterate, I'm not remotely worried about that flywheel going bang. The crank, pretty awful material, old crank, not cracked, fine on size, and as I mentioned again, I left as much meat in there as I could for the strength. But we shall just see, is it strong enough or not? No way of knowing. We'll find out, won't we? Yeah, and having done literally hundreds and hundreds of flywheels in the past, some of which were much lighter than this one, I'm not remotely worried about that. So any comments on that sort of thing go in the usual place. We filed in the box completely useless. Okay, cheers. Yeah, just thought I'd mention Nyla's bike actually. That got very few views, and I was surprised at why, you know, how few. George's bike got like 400 and some whatever, and this is down at 30. And then my wife pointed out, how many of your viewers do you think are actually interested in you doing up a little girl's bike? I was like, yeah, when you put it like that, not surprising really at all, is it? Yeah, anyway, I think this one's been long enough already, so I won't rub it on any longer. I will just say, like and subscribe. Cheers, good health, and I'll see you in a few weeks, let's be honest.